Welcome to another episode of The Proof of Concept. This podcast is created to provide technologists and technology leaders with the opportunity for them to have access to cutting-edge cyber defense research. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with Erik who is a technologist with over 20 years of experience. He is also a teacher and mentor in Magna Cyber Academy. Erik, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate the chance.
All right, Erik, we're going to have a very productive conversation here. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been an IT professional?
I've been doing this for over 25 years, ranging from small business IT work to worked at a newspaper at one time supporting their network to everything in between, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies.
How did you get started in IT?
I kind of fell into it. I had an art scholarship that I was going to pursue after high school, but I got to thinking, how can I really turn my ability to draw and sculpt, that type of thing into a job that's going to pay well enough to survive.
Yeah.
So I decided to start looking at other places, and I have a natural innate curiosity about how things work. It's been that way since I was a little kid. Shortly after my senior year in high school, I worked for a small company that was a call center. They were doing technical support for companies like Intuit and Sun Microsystems, which, as you know, that's quite old now. So, but I really had an interest in, okay, these platforms work, but how do they work? I've always wanted to know what's behind the scenes, what's behind the Wizard of Oz curtain.
Yeah.
So some of the people that were in that business decided, okay, well, he's got a huge interest here. Let's push him into learning things. And I got started off with Unix System 5 and learning how everything worked together on the network. Back then it was called ThickNet, 10 base 5. So I just naturally progressed from there and just slowly started consuming information.
Awesome. Well, now you find your way to IT and you have been given your shot at learning useful tools that will allow you to grow your career. But what has been the most difficult thing that you found up to this point? We're talking about from the time that you decided that you need to find something that can pay you better, and something that allows you to use your passion, and you found your way to IT. But now that the company that you work for has given you the opportunity to evolve, what was the most challenging part for you as you grow that career?
I would say the most challenging part is keeping up with technology as it rolls forward. If you just look at the last 4 or 5 years, I've done quite a few papers on SD-WAN, for example. It was a new and emerging technology about 4 years ago. WAN technologies haven't changed in 20 plus years. Now we're having a huge influx of everything is changing to software-defined networking, SD-WAN, and a host of other acronyms. In order to stay current in the field and competent, you have to be a lifelong learner. You have to be constantly consuming information, playing with technology. So it does take a large amount of time. And it's time away from family and friends and doing other fun things in order to keep yourself abreast on what's going on. So it is a commitment.
So that's the most challenging part. Yeah, I can relate to that, and I think that's a common theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
In order for you to attain the level of proficiency that's required for you to be able to be trusted with engineering and securing the enterprise's IT or cybersecurity infrastructure, you've got to invest a significant amount of time. It's not something that happens within just a few days or a few months, even a few years, and it is not something that also happens just by consuming information. Access to information, one can argue, is something that's not lacking nowadays. We have access now to the largest library of information ever created by mankind, which is called search engines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Google, Bing, and others, and YouTube as well. Any type of information that you would like to find, whether it is how to build an airplane or how to build a rocket or how to build a network, all of that is publicly available. But now access to that information does not necessarily make one an expert. How does someone, in your opinion, Erik, transition from someone who has access to information like the rest of the population to someone who can really be trusted with building solid IT infrastructures?
This is going to really make you laugh, Jared. One of the companies I interviewed for, they said, "Why do you want this job?" I basically just told them because I get to play with equipment that there's no way I could afford on my own. Because when you look at some of these switches and some of these routers, you're talking, $500,000 to $750,000 for just one piece of equipment. That's something
Yeah,
that an individual would never have access to up until about 3 years ago. We've
yeah,
now come to a period of time where labbing has become affordable for individual engineers to pursue. That can be through purchasing equipment off of eBay or other marketplaces like that and building your own physical lab, or using what I use a combination of CML, which is Cisco Modeling Labs Personal Edition, and EVNG, which is Emulated Virtual Environment Next Generation. Those allow you to build a virtualized environment on a server or an old PC, that as long as you have the equipment that'll support it, virtualization. But you
yeah.
can build up any size network you want virtually, and you don't have that high cost of entry for the equipment. So you're talking a few $100s, and you've got everything you need to really hone your skills and gain the experience that you need.
Those things that you mentioned,
Jared?
like EVNG and others, they might be useful, in my opinion, to someone who is a seasoned technologist like you. But what about someone who doesn't have a clue? Think about anyone who thinks, I'd like to start a career and I think IT is the thing for me. They don't know the first thing about what a server means, what an IP address
Right.
means. They don't know anything about that. Now, how does that person benefit from these systems? Do you think it would be easy for them, just as it is for you, to build these labs and be able to acquire new skills?
No, it's never easy. It's not even easy for me. I mean, I'm dealing with technologies on a daily basis that I've never touched before.
Yeah,
The biggest thing that a person can have is mentorship, and that's available through programs like Magna Cyber Academy, where they're actually dealing with seasoned technologists who can help them out and get them moving forward, and also help them not make the mistakes that some of us made when we were entering the field, and learning things the proper way and in the proper order in order to make
yeah,
sense of how things are done. So the
yeah.
mentorship is a key component of that, as well as finding a training program that'll take them from literally zero to hero capabilities. And that's another reason why I
Awesome.
decided to join Magna Cyber Academy, is you guys have that viewpoint. We're taking people who have the passion, have the desire, and have the ability to learn, and helping them fast track into this type of career.
Excellent, Eric. We're gonna jump into that, into the Magna Cyber and your involvement there, and how you're helping bridge the gap between the shortage of employees and the businesses that are looking for qualified candidates. You have been an instructor at Magna Cyber. You and I, we collaborate in this project. And for those who don't know, Magna Cyber Academy is a platform that I am building with some of my peers, where I provide entry level information technology and cybersecurity professionals access to quality education and access to hands on experience. And how that's done is that we build networks, complex networks like the ones you find in all big companies. Think about Google, Amazon, and others. We have networks that are as robust as those networks. And then we invite the best of breed in the information technology realm to come and to learn on this network as if they're working there. Now you have a place where you are learning by doing. The benefit of that is that within a few months, someone who is part of this program is able to learn enough skills for them to now start their first job in IT or cybersecurity. And more importantly, they have access to people like Erik, who have years of experience in this field. And these people are the instructors in the Magna Cyber Academy. They're real engineers who have implemented and who are still practicing information technology and information security, who are teaching them in this program and mentoring them and helping them avoid mistakes that they made as they grew their career. So, as an instructor at Magna Cyber Academy, can you tell us, why do you believe in this project? Why is it important?
I believe it's important because the standpoint of, it's kind of like how companies have been looking at the traditional college graduates. You look at a
Mhm.
majority of positions, they have the entry level, must have a bachelor's degree in computer information systems or information management. or mathematics in order to enter this field.
Yeah.
It's really not necessary. You can learn this stuff outside of a traditional college environment. And a lot of times you're a lot more effective because you're not spreading a large amount of information over a 4-year period. We're
Yeah.
condensing the information into a shorter period of time that makes it easier for you to achieve your goals. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing with this type of program, and that's why I believe in it so heavily. Is you're using all of your effort and committing all of your time to learn the one thing that's going to move you forward in life. And for me, that's
Yeah.
important because we need to make this available to people who don't have $50,000 to go take a Cisco course, that takes them up from CCNA to CCIE level. That's not realistic for somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck, supporting a couple of kids, like I was at the beginning. So, in order to help these people, it's critical that we develop a program that'll be able to take them from where they are now to where they need to be within a short period of time, even though they are working.
Hmm. Wow, that is powerful, Eric. And you touched on something very important, right? There has been a divide in the information technology field. Typically, people tend to polarize that. There's a group that represents the ones who went to college, and another group that represents the ones who didn't go to college yet are information technology professionals at the highest level.
Yes.
So one could argue that is going to college a requirement for you to become an IT professional? And I think you answered that question, right? What's the answer?
No, it is not. Not by any means.
Okay. And now the other question would be, is it a problem if someone attended college?
Do you want me to be honest? I've had a
Okay.
lot of engineers that I've brought on that have had 4-year degrees or master's degrees, even that I basically have to tell them forget everything you learned because it's 2 decades or more older than what we're doing currently. And let's erase your bad habits and get you started off on the right foot. So it's generally a larger jump for them and more difficult because they're not dealing with current technology. That's the problem you have when coming out of colleges. So
Yeah.
getting this type of experience from the ground up on recent technologies puts you way ahead of the pack as far as when you go in for that interview or when somebody starts questioning you on, well, how would you do this, the typical scenario based hiring.
Yeah.
Most college students don't do too well in that.
I've said that openly to others that the information technology profession is
Mm-hmm.
not best learned in a university settings. And I believe, right? I believe that it is best learned hands-on. You've got to have access to the tools. And if you go to college, you spend 4, 5, 6 years, and when you come out of college, that's when you're going to start. You're no different than the person who didn't go to college, who just starts from day one, right, in the field, maybe through a certificate that they have acquired or through the help desk or an opportunity that they were given, like you, Eric. And so think about it. You spend 6 years and you come out and you're at the exact same spot in your career as someone who didn't go anywhere. You see, now think about if you're 18 years old and it takes you 6 years to finish with this college education,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody else after 6 years, now you're what? You're 24, and here comes another guy who's 18 now, and instead of him going to college, he goes directly into the field. So you're 24, he's 18, and we're at the exact same spot in your careers. And I think it's a disfavor put to the person who is now 24 years old and possibly $150,000 in debt, and with 2 degrees, and the same exact amount of knowledge as the person who is 18 years old and entering the field. So,
Well,
how do we solve this problem?
the biggest thing is the college student is starting off with an anchor around his neck. He all that student debt, he's dealing with stress that the 18-year-old will never have to deal with. So
Yeah,
you've got to factor that in as to what it does to a person dealing with that amount of stress and strife throughout their time, and how they're going to learn going forward when dealing with that. They're going to be looking for the next opportunity, next opportunity, next opportunity, rather than focusing on their career where they really should be. They're focusing on pursuit of money.
yeah,
They're
that's
not
very well.
they're not doing it for the growth potential. They're doing it for, I need money because I've got $125,000 in student debt.
Yeah, Yeah. So, what would be the actionable item here? Or what I would say to that person, right? If you are 18 years old, or maybe
Mhm.
you're not 18 years old, you're 24 years old, but you never went to college, and you were in some other field, and you want to pivot from that, you want to find yourself now in technology.
Mhm.
I would say to you, a college education will be useful, but not on day one. On day
Yes.
one, I would say to you, acquire skill and experience. Skill and experience. Don't confuse those two with information. We all have access to information. That does not make us an expert. If you want to know about how airplanes are built today, you can find out on Google, YouTube, and everywhere else. But that does not make you an engineer who can build airplanes. Don't try to be just a consumer of information. Be a practitioner of information, and that is the difference between the person who's paper smart and the person who has hands-on experience, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I look at it as the transition from information to actual knowledge.
Yeah.
That's a huge divide that people don't really look at and don't really understand how that functions. The biggest thing with that is I can read a book on any technology and understand the concept, the theory. Theory is not how things work. I was part of a team that actually found the very first problems in the ASR 1000 line for Cisco. It was an order of operations error in the mathematics background functioning on access lists that caused the router to basically use all of its CPU. It would just spike up exponentially and the router would become dead. And nobody could figure out why. We worked with Cisco engineers really in depth, the developers, for about a month before I showed them exactly where the problem was happening and why.
Yeah.
I got a $10,000 bug bounty from Cisco for that,
Wow.
and I actually still have the original Cisco iOS image with my name in it. That was
Yeah.
a beta for the fix, and for me that was a badge of honor. I love that. I could care less about the 10 grand, but having that iOS image with my name in it, that was like the gold star for the year.
Yeah. And so, Eric, let's stay right there, right? I want to dive into that, right? This is not something that you could sit down, listen to a lecture, watch YouTube videos, and be able to figure out. You've got to have experience. You've got to be someone who has done that over and over, and who has built a certain appreciation for the methodology behind the technology, and an appreciation that you can only come to build through hands-on experience. So we believe that we are going to make a difference, right, in the field, because we're solving this problem. This is a major problem, and it's not a problem that's easy to solve, because if it were easy to solve, it would have been solved already. But we're not looking for it to be easy. We're looking for it to be exciting or something that is worth our time, and we believe this is worth our time. And we know wholeheartedly that we're going to solve this problem of people not having access to hands-on IT or information security experience. And how we're doing that is through the Magna Cyber Academy training program. Well, now, I'd like to ask you to take us right behind the scene. What goes on behind the scene in preparing for a Magna Cyber Academy class, and what should your students expect when they join this program and start to work with you? Is it just that they're going to have access to an expert with 25 years of experience, or that there's more to it than
There's a
that?
lot more to it than that. The one thing I've learned in all of my years of doing this, I've mentored dozens of engineers, is nobody learns the same way. I can't just spew out information, expect the students to understand it the way that I do. Everybody
Yeah.
has a different way of learning and a different life experience that has set up their learning pattern. So I tend to personalize a lot of it and ask questions of the students and to determine if they're really getting it. If not, I'll change how I present the information into a way that makes sense to them and is more effective for their learning style.
Mhm.
That's what I think is missing in a lot of education, college, on the job training, Cisco certifications, any of your certification training classes. That's a big component that's missing that I think that we will be able to deliver where most people fall way short. And that's understanding that everybody learns differently and there's ways to make your learning more effective, and helping them with those strategies will help them further their understanding as well as their career in doing it.
What can a person who's new to IT do to accelerate their career
Um,
growth?
Like I
Yeah.
said, everybody can understand the concept. Everybody can copy from a book. Here's how I configure an interface. Here's how I configure an access list. Here's how I can da da da. But when that's broken, how do you troubleshoot it? And
Yeah.
understanding that process and going through it in your head over and over and over, that it starts to become more of part of who you are, and it changes your thought processes and how you approach a problem. And those problem solving skills are really what's going to take your career to the next level. But you've got to have a place to practice those.
Yeah. No, excellent, excellent, Eric. And that's a conversation that we can continue to have for hours. But we
Yeah,
would like for it to be more concise and for the audience to be able to consume that. Us technologists, we can continue to talk about that stuff for days, and we will never get bored of that. But
yeah.
we're coming to an end, right, Eric? And I want to touch on something, right? There's a proof of concept that I'm currently running now. It's a proof of concept of the leaders of next generation firewalls. So, what would you like to see in a proof of concept like that? I know you're contributing to that. A lot of people don't know behind the scene in our cyber defense research lab. You're a contributor, but what would you like to see, Eric, as a feature that is tested either in the Palo Alto, Fortinet, or Checkpoint? And why would you like executives to have access to that?
The biggest one I would say right now is SD-WAN and software
Okay.
defined networking, because we're starting to deal with more and more IP fabrics in the data center. And if you take, for example, I worked at H&R Block for quite a few years as an architect for them. They have 11,000 sites. For a network engineer to try to maintain, an install base that large is massively difficult. In order to do that, we need to start looking at, the software defined capabilities of networks going forward, and how can that be used to, one, be a force multiplier for your IT teams, to where it doesn't take a whole staff of network engineers to manage the WAN. One person can do it. So it's effective
Okay.
use of people, it's effective use of technology, and it makes a major difference to the bottom line of the companies that are pursuing these technologies, because they don't have as many problems, they don't have as many outages, and they don't require a massive team to support the technologies, the legacy technologies that they're currently using.
Excellent. SD-WAN, we'll make sure that this is in our proof of concept. Chat GPT. I think we shouldn't close this episode without touching on Chat GPT, as this is the talk in town. Any information about that? Is that going to replace the information technology or information security professionals?
No, because it's the typical mouse and mousetrap scenario. Whenever you build a better mousetrap, the mouse will find a way around it. And we deal that with all the time with hackers. Look at denial of service attacks. I mean, what you're going to see is, you're going to see, I hate to say this, malware creators and, people who intend to do no good. They're going to start utilizing the capabilities of software like ChatGPT in order to develop better and more effective malware. So you're still going
Yeah,
to need that human edge, that human intuition, that human experience to overcome those challenges.
yeah. All right, Eric, that's it for us. I want to thank you, right, for the time that you have dedicated to be part of this episode of the Proof of Concept podcast. And I'd like to invite anyone who is looking for a path, an accelerated path to start and grow in IT or cybersecurity career, to consider Magna Cyber Academy, where you're going to have access to proven information technology professionals like Eric, me, and others who will be your teacher and mentor. It is a method where you learn hands-on and you transform information every day into actionable knowledge. So, Eric, any last word before we close this podcast, sir?
I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this, as well as a part of Magna Cyber Academy, because I enjoy teaching others and I enjoy mentoring. And I think that's really the critical piece that's missing nowadays, is there's not enough mentors out there to help people through this.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much.
All right.